The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by Continental Energy Solutions. I'm Tim Montague, your co-host. Today on the Clean Power Hour, where is John Weaver's 150-day review of the Model Y? Damn good question. Can we make the energy transition by 2035? Absolutely, and Rewiring America is going to show us how. How big is a gigaton of carbon, you ask? It's very big, and it's worth a cool 100 mil. And the EV truck wars are upon us. Can Rivian take on Tesla? We have lots of good solar and storage news as well. Welcome to my co-host, the commercial solar guy, John Weaver.
Timothy, I hope all is well. It's nice to see you again. Thanks for having me back. You mentioned in the pre-show that you were a little chilly, and it just started snowing a little bit heavier here. We're expecting an afternoon. So, what's the uh, what's the temp where you're at? I saw in like Minnesota, a little bit north of you, it was in like the negative 40s. So I hope you're not that bad.
Yeah, we are kind of spoiled here in central Illinois. It's a lot milder than it is up north in Chicago and, of course, Wisconsin, Minnesota. But yeah, it's in the teens. Got a little bit of snow over the weekend. And I say, let it snow, let it snow. I want to go skiing. We don't have enough snow for skiing yet, so bring it on.
Okay. Well, I like the snow because it cleans solar panels really well. The water has a magnetic effect that bonds to dirt and pulls them off, and so they do an exceptionally good job of cleaning your solar panels. Just putting that out there.
I didn't know that, and but I have noticed that snow cleans my car. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
do I do like it when the car gets snowy. Speaking of
Mhm.
cars, I gave a 100-day review of the Model Y over the weekend. I will put a link to that. I'm not going to dwell too much on that here, and I was just chiding you a little bit. You've had yours a little longer than me, so I'm curious what you think. And I focus on range. My campaign is truth to range. I think the
Yep.
computer in the car should tell us exactly how far you can actually go, not what you could go under ideal circumstances, because let's face it, the world is not ideal.
There is a chart that shows your instant and your average range based upon current usage. It's a little tougher to fully extrapolate over a full trip because it's instant. So you have to make some sort of guesses about what your trip's going to be like. But I agree with you on that one, especially when you start pushing the cold and for me, when I'm driving around up north on the highways, this is when I notice it most. You're braking 70 miles an hour, so your efficiency is falling just in general. And then it's 20 degrees out, and you need to keep that heat on. And so that's where I notice the electricity get pulled. So you got to prepare for it. You got to manage that. Your manager charging. It's a good thing on the highways. There's lots of superchargers in the Northeast, at least, but it is something to be managed. So we'll check out that video. Thanks for letting me know. And my 150, yeah, I do all my chatting on stuff via Twitter, and so far I'm pretty happy. The biggest thing is that charging for me is a challenge. Not really a challenge, but I don't have a charger at home because my home electricity isn't clean enough. Whenever the fridge or the lighting or anything goes on or off, and I don't even have a lot of electricity draw, it wiggles the current too much and the car's like, nope, not clean enough, and it automatically disconnects. And so I charge at the community center in the city of Dartmouth, and near my office there's a parking garage, and I charge on two level 2 chargers, and that's always it. So I park a quarter mile to one of them and the other one I work, so that's how I charge. So that's my biggest thing. But otherwise, the car, I love it. It's big. It does exactly what I want. Oh man, I put 3,500 miles on it over the holidays when I went camping. So I'm looking forward to my next trip. That's really what I'm most stressed about. The car creates a demand to go camping in it, and I haven't been able to feed that demand enough, and so that upsets me a little bit. And uh,
I even saw a mattress that's fitted to the back of the Model Y online. Somebody's selling fitted
yep,
mattresses for the back of the Y, so you'll have to
uh,
get one of those.
yes,
My
yes,
my only advice to aspiring EV owners is yes, install a level 2 charger if you can, and then be aware that you're going to really want level 3 charging in your travels, and so you just want to look at that network. It is robust, but it is far from perfect. especially as you get into rural America, and that is large swaths of the Midwest where I live, work, and play. So I've had a few moments where I've had some anxiety, and but there's quite a bit of Tesla related news. We're going to talk about the SpaceX Elon Musk $100 million carbon capture prize. And, you know, this is one of the reasons I love Elon Musk. And yes, he is a billionaire, and $100 million is probably not a lot of money for Elon Musk, but nonetheless, it's a big purse. It is the largest purse in the Xprize portfolio. And Peter Diamandis, made this competition popular, I don't know, a decade or more ago. And he and Musk are good buddies, I think. So they are going to award, I think, 15 teams in the first phase of this,
Yep.
$1 million. So it's a phased approach, which I like. Kind of get everybody in the water, get them going, and then thin it out, and then they have carve outs for student teams, and they're going to be making the full announcement on Earth Day this year, which is also my brother's birthday, April 22nd, 2021. So go to SpaceX or Tesla, and you'll find links, or just go to xprize.org, which is the website I have on the screen here, and check it out. You can sign up for updates. So it's pretty exciting. And then in one of the stories, John, that I saw about this, apparently a gigaton of carbon is, I'm not sure what material they're referring to. I think ice in this case. Imagine Central Park in New York City, 1,100 feet tall. And that a chunk of ice, 1,100 feet tall, the size of Central Park, that is a gigaton of carbon. It's a lot of carbon. And so the goal is, I think, to remove a gigaton per year for this, for the winner, the device or the technology of the winner. So it'll be exciting to see who floats to the top, so to speak.
I'm Elon likes to think like long and broad, and I mean, it could simply be that this is all about removing carbon from the atmosphere for the purpose of, getting us down back to 350 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. And that's our safe number that we believe for a more stable atmosphere. And it could be that, we're at like 415, 418 nowadays, probably. And, uh, and so if it's just that, cool. However, it's never just that with Elon. What's the purpose of it? Is it to make clean fuel for his rocket ships? Is it to send to Mars so that we can extract carbon from the atmosphere there? Or I think it's the exact opposite, actually. We want some carbon in the atmosphere there so we could spruce up the atmosphere and get more. So I just want to see what he's doing. I want to know what's ticking in his head. I would love for this to take CO2 carbon from the atmosphere and feed it into a 3D printer. And then the 3D printer output carbon nanotubes or graphene or whatever the heck we want, or wind turbines, as I reference an article later in on this document. Maybe we'll get to it, but I'm just interested in what the long game is on this. I love the prize. The thing, carbon removal, seems like it's something we really have to do, and so all that stuff is cool, and the structure of it even awesomer. I'm really, I'm always interested in what the heck this dude is thinking. So
Yeah, 350.org, kind of popularized this concept that we really need to stay at or below 350 ppm of CO2 in the atmosphere. We've now gone beyond 400, and but I don't hear a lot of people talking about getting back to 350. I think that is something that we all need to have in our awareness, that we're really in unsafe territory. We're in potential runaway global warming territory. And yes, it's decades away from, real scary gnarliness, but the gnarliness, of course, is nipping at our heels, with the fires in California and the flooding and the storm frequency. And so designing machines that can remove carbon from the atmosphere or the oceans, that is the explicit in this Xprize, is a necessary thing. It's not enough to just clean the grid, right? And stop all of the carbon from getting into the atmosphere. We actually have to reverse that process. And that's what Elon is putting a finger on here. Yeah, I don't know if he says what he's going to use the CO2 for, but there's so many things, right, that you can do with CO2. You can build building materials, you can build rocket fuel, as you've pointed out. So I don't think we'll have a shortage of things to do with the carbon. It's a question of making it cost effective. And I think we'll use clean energy to do it, right? We have a plethora of energy. We just have to harness it. In a related story, John, and this is a cash cow for SpaceX. They have opened up Starlink to to you and me. It was in beta release. This is a network of low Earth orbit satellites. I think there's 60,000 of them now, or they're on the path to 60,000.
That's the
It's
goal. They're at like 1,000 or something like that. It's
it's
60 units per launch.
okay. It's yeah, and they've done some launches where they did even more.
Oh,
I think they did a launch with like 140 recently. The launch statistics are nuts. When you go to SpaceX and you look at their launch stats, they've got rockets that they've reused like 50 times now. So I love it that SpaceX is pushing the bounds, and this is going to just be a cash cow for SpaceX. It is a good thing because it's bringing internet to rural people. Don't be smirking now. Um,
I'm smirking. I'm smirking at your 50 count. Your 50 count for rockets, I think, is off.
yeah,
I
go to
think that's like 70.
SpaceX.com, my friend. Go to
I
SpaceX.com.
know. I
Go
think
check it out.
they've
Do a
used
fact
one
check,
launch.
bro.
Fine, fine. Whatever.
Ah,
Most
my memory,
launch.
my memory is not the best, but I was there this morning. So, but anyway, opening Starlink up, I'm guessing that they will soon have a wait list because more people are going to want this. There's a lot of people that don't have good cable internet in rural areas. You know, cable requires this heavy coax. It's a copper cable with shielding on it, right? That runs down telephone wires and other uh, existing infrastructure, and it's expensive. So if you can get good broadband wireless internet, you want it. My only gripe about this service is that it's not available for nomads. So if you're an RVer, apparently,
Why not?
I don't know the logic there,
Mm-hmm.
but they want you to be tied to an address. They want the antenna um, to be
On a
tied.
physical location.
Um,
Because I ordered
I
it.
was
I
sharing the
placed an order
wrong
for it.
I was sharing the wrong
So
screen there, but
yeah.
here's the Starlink story, ideal for
Mm-hmm.
rural and remote communities, and that's the antenna right here. It's a little parabolic dish, and it tracks it. So it follows it'll lock onto a satellite and follow it,
That's why.
and then it'll move and track to a different one because the satellites are not geosynchronous. They're
Mm-hmm.
moving. Um, but so I don't understand technically why you couldn't have the dish moving around. It's still just finding the Starlink satellites. It's sending a special signal, tracking. Should work on a mobile device too. You know, on an RV. So we'll see.
Well, it will. So one, I signed up for it as soon as I saw that announcement come out. I've put down my $99, and they say my address, my region should launch summer to fall, middle to end of 2021. So when that pops up, we can do a book report on it. Second item, I saw that they are going to launch a cellular type service. So there's going to be something that's going to go with it. I don't know how it's going to look, how that phone's going to work, anything of that nature. And
Okay.
third, I'm reading an article from August 20th of 2020, and the same Falcon 9 booster has landed for a sixth time, setting a new record for the rocket. So I think we're up to like 8 now for maybe it's that particular Falcon X. So I think they've reused rockets 50 to 100 times in total, but like 10 or 12 different rockets they've reused
Yes.
50 to 100 times. This unit alone specifically is the record holder at like 7 or 8. So one of
Okay.
them,
But 50 flights with reused rockets, right?
totally. Yeah,
Yeah. So I
awesome.
misspoke a little bit. Um, but it is an impressive track record that they're building. I mean, it's like every week they're launching rockets.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a weekend thing. It's like, what are you doing this weekend? Launching a rocket.
I'm dying to get down to Boca Chica and see this live.
I'll join you. You let me know. That'll be one of my vacations for that's what it is. Tim, we got a vacation, got a schedule for 20 after I get my my little jabby thing in the arm. Then I'll join you down south. How's
Yeah,
that?
the jabby thing would be a good thing to have.
Yes.
I'm ready for the jab, the jib jab.
So
All right. Well,
Brownfield Solar in Central Illinois. Is this your project?
this is one that got away.
Oh,
It,
oh,
it's very bittersweet, of course. But I found this nice drone footage of the Tilton Solar project. It's a
yep.
project that Amoresco developed. They're one of the largest solar developers in the country.
They're awesome.
And this is an old foundry landfill. There was a GM foundry here, which you'll see in part of this drone footage if we get to it, or I'll fast forward to it. And it's been closed since the 90s. And there's really nothing you can do with this land, right? Because it's full of all kinds of toxic stuff. It's a capped landfill, and now they've built a nice 2 megawatt solar field on top of it. You see the ballast blocks there. So it's all above ground, right? There's no
Beautiful.
penetrations. That's one of the unique things about brownfield solar generally is you have to do ballasted ground mount. And it's a thing, and it works, right? Those ballast blocks have a gravel footing, and theoretically, the landfill has been settling for over 20 years already, so it's not gonna be too squishy, and you've got a nice clean power plant. Now you're going to see the old foundry site here as the drone turns around.
So Amoresco, one of my favorite companies. They do amazing work. They combine solar storage and controls like it's nobody's business. In fact, they
Yeah.
might have invented portions of the business. Recent headlines from Amoresco on a big Navy Yard facility that they managed in Philly. They also did one on Paris Island for the Marines. Recently, I got to work with them. If you ever want to get Jacqueline on the show or anybody from Amoresco, even though they beat you or even though you didn't get that deal, they're just a good person to listen to and learn from because they know so much. I
Oh
like that
yeah.
company.
Yeah, we've done a lot of solar school rooftop solar school projects with Amoresco
Yep. Yep.
in the Chicagoland area. But I'd love to talk to somebody from the East Coast. They have obviously a much bigger footprint of solar projects on the East Coast. So bring on that introduction. And I
Okay.
agree. Great company. And they're well known in the performance contracting world.
Yes.
They're an ESCO, and they're a long-term owner of solar assets. So they like to do high quality work, and that's a good thing also. So nice brownfield solar.
I like it.
um, I
I
can't
like
get
it.
enough. I can't get enough. I mean, it's kind of it's one of my quirks, I guess. My dad was a landfill expert, and so I grew up learning about all the bads that landfills bring to the world. They contaminate groundwater, among other things, which is a real problem. So it's nice that I work in an industry that can make a good out of a bad. All
I
right, man. Oxford PV delayed about a year, but they did set a new efficiency record. Have we talked about Oxford before on the show, John?
I am absolutely certain of it because I'm an absolute fanboy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is a story you wrote on your blog. What's the
Yes.
deal?
Yes. So we probably talked about them setting a new efficiency record back in December because two companies set silicon perovskite tandem. That's the product specifically. And
Yes.
the efficiency record's about 29.5% on a cell level. So it's not a trivial number. And
No.
and this is what I think is going to follow a standard silicon product. Is you have a single layer, which is what we all sell nowadays. and they just want to add a layer right on top of it. And so you see the difference. If you can see the Jinkos and the lower numbers in the 22, 23, 24 range, all the companies we know, we buy and sell and we love. But then you see that Oxford PV way up there, just sitting up above it. And everything above that are weird solar cells that cost $100 a watt. They're all from Enro, the most beautiful cells on the planet. And, these things are 30, 40% made by one-off experts and labs in like Colorado, people that know more about solar than, it's them and Fraunhofer folk in Germany. And, but Oxford, that percentage there, that cell is probably 3 years out, maybe 4 years out. And that's a 27% panel. When that comes out, that's something. Right now, they're hoping, and so this is a real product they're developing. This cell is around 26-ish, 25-ish, 27-ish%, and they're hoping to launch a 24-ish, 23-ish% solar panel. They'll be actually not launching the panel. They'll be selling the solar cells to panel assemblers. And these will probably, now they've lost about a year due to COVID. They say it's COVID, but these will hopefully come to the market in early 2022. In that article, if you scroll to the bottom, you can see kind of a breakdown of the various things they're going through. They got slowed down, I guess, assembling the factory because of COVID. They have these two teams that were going back and forth, and it was a dance. I actually titled my article, "The Dance to Deliver the Most Efficient Residential Solar Panel in the World." And the dance of COVID kind of caught up with them. So they got a beautiful
say
product.
that they're going to go to market with a 23% efficiency?
Yes. Yeah. 23, 24.
Okay. But so doesn't that put them in the middle of the pack then?
No. The record efficiencies for a solar panel right now that's decent. I mean, there's one solar panel at 23%. That's by Jinko with their record cell. And that panel you can't buy. The next is 22.7. That's SunPower. And maybe SunPower is over 30 or 23 with their Maxion, but you can't find those. After that, you start seeing like the REC from Alpha. That's a 21.7% cell. Then, that's where we're starting. So they're going to come out on a panel level with a cell that's 26-ish% and a panel that's 24-ish, 23-ish%. So that should hypothetically put them at the front or near the front. There's only going to be about 125 megawatts of volume available in the first year. So it's not like there's going to be a big volume, but it's something. It'd be the first one out. We'll see if they do it. It's, last year when I interviewed them, it was about a year for the product to hit the market. Now it's a year and it's still a year. It's a little bit shorter, and they've done more testing and they set a new record. But, my heart's beating for them. Let's do it, baby.
Good stuff. Yeah, I've been trying to get Violet to come on the show. Charlie Gay, I believe,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
I reached out to him, but no luck yet. Okay, and then you've got a cool story about a SunGrow project in Japan. I will put that on screen while you tell us what's going on in Japan.
24/7, 365 solar power. It's this is a model that we should always hold in the back of our head. If somebody says, "Hey, you can't," what happens when the sun goes down? Blah, 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 blah. The dumb stuff we always hear. Your response should be, well, if it came down to it, dear person, I could build a 6 megawatt DC, 21 megawatt hour solar plant that's under 20 cents per kilowatt hour. And the reason I know I can do that is because in Japan, these folks just did it and they're getting paid 19 cents per kilowatt hour. And so what this is, it's they have an interconnection. The connection to the power line of this whole island is about 600 kVA. They built a solar power plant with a battery and solar panels that's enough to power this for 24 hours. So literally, they could cut the power line and they'd be cool. In the summertime, they'd be great because the system will be overproducing. I don't know the nuances of the local weather. On December 21st, the shortest day of the year, the question is, how are they going to do? But otherwise, this is a 24-hour solar system. And here's the key. There's a 7-to-1 DC to AC ratio. That means you have 7 times more solar panels than the inverter can actually output at the peak moments. And that's where the DC coupled battery comes in. And which is, for me, solar plus DC coupled storage is the best. I just love the concept of a huge oversize, a big battery, and this is it. This is the first one, to the best of my knowledge, on a larger basis. I've installed plenty of off-grid systems that have cool ratios and weird little things. Not plenty, a few, but this is the first big one. This is a 21 megawatt hour project and 6 megs of solar. It's not utility scale, but it's small utility. And this is real interesting. I remember talking to the CEO at 8-Minute Energy, and they're one of the leading solar developers in the world. Some of the most, they have math departments that just do math, that just figure out how to build it. These aren't even the people that are installing it. These aren't the finance people. These are just people doing math on the hardware, figuring out how to tweak efficiency. And the CEO there, I asked him, because he was the guy to ask. I said, hey, are we going to have solar plants that are 5, 6, 7-to-1 ratios that have 15, 16, 17-hour batteries? And he says, yep, they're already on the drawing board. And I bet you're going to see one within 5 years on the market. And this was like a year and a half ago. His are bigger than this. So this isn't their company. This is a different group, but this is that. And there's going to be models of this as full-on utility scale plants. I happen to think we're going to distribute our batteries a lot more. I don't know this, but I think big giant battery installs, the scale isn't as valuable, but I'm super, super interested in it. And this is an awesome product. It's the future, and watch it. Keep this in your back pocket whenever somebody talks smack. Just as a basic one, say, hey, this is an upper bound price, 19 cents per kilowatt hour. If you can deal with that, then bam, we have a full-on 24/7, 365 solution. And this is probably even oversized because I just from looking at some numbers. So great system, really, really interesting.
I hope some people are listening who want to get in the Puerto Rican game, because Puerto Rico has a 100% RPS, and of course it's an island nation. They have expensive diesel power, and they have a great RPS. They're just trying to figure out how to bring that to fruition. My other comment on this is that I didn't realize that Sungrow was so into storage. I know them, of course, as a major solar inverter manufacturer, especially for utility scale. But here's their storage landing page, and clearly they're going hard after both CNI and utility scale solar. And then a question I had, John, is that ratio, 7-to-1. That really is all about the fact that there is a very large storage component, right? So
Yep.
you've got extra solar, which isn't being used by the inverter, and it's feeding into the battery bank, storing up huge amounts of solar during the day, and then discharging that onto the grid at night.
Yep.
I think we're going to see a lot more of this type of project. So thank you for bringing this to the show. Really excited to see this story. The island of Hokkaido, I believe. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong.
That's going to be our next vacation, Tim. We're gonna have
I want
to
go back to Japan. I went to Tokyo a few years ago and had a great time.
I'm a little envious. I want to go.
So I like Japan. It's crowded, but they know how to handle crowds. They're very mellow about crowds, and they have wonderful transportation. So you can get around on trains and subways really easily.
I always figured I'd have to shower a lot in Japan because I would be very conscious of making sure I'm not rude and smelling badly. So I'd have to take care of myself.
And it is hot in the summer. They have a similar climate to ours. It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. So yeah, you will be sweating if you go in the summer. So the EV truck wars. I love this story. Um, I've been watching Rivian for about 4 years. They bought an old Mitsubishi plant here in Central Illinois in Bloomington Normal. The company is based in Detroit and they have offices in the Bay Area. But now Rivian it's getting real because um, they have a pilot project going with Amazon.
Mhm.
If I can get this on screen, I'm a little, for some reason, Zoom is not cooperating with me on the screen share. Um, but so Amazon did a major investment back in 2019. Ford did a major investment. So those things kind of put Rivian on the map.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful looking truck. I'll show the Rivian website here in a second too. And theoretically, they're going to start selling these pickups and SUVs, the R1T and the R1S. T is for truck, S is for SUV, and then these electric delivery trucks built on the same skateboard apparently as the I think as the R1T and the R1S. So cool concept. I like the skateboard concept that Rivian is working with. My question for you and the public is, can Rivian really be successful without a supercharger network that Tesla has? Because as an EV owner now, I've realized how precious supercharging is when you're traveling. And Rivian even promotes something. They're really big on adventure travel, rock climbing and kayaking, um and they're saying that they're going to build a network of level 2 chargers in remote places so that you can go to a remote place, a destination, let's say to go kayaking, plug in level 2 charge. So it's a long, you have to be there for several hours in order to get a significant amount of mileage out of it, but it's there. And then you're doing your activity. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
First off, I do think they have a chance at being successful. The key is that they've got the Amazon contract to build like 10,000 vans, and that's going to drive some revenue, and that's going to give them a chance to grow and do some things, build these networks, invest in some growth. Whether or not they need their own supercharger network, whether they could tap into Teslas, whether they could tap into the other national charging networks and integrate it into the truck a little more. Something, there's ways to do it. I will say though that I read a research paper. I didn't get deep into it, so I don't have details, but they specifically pointed to the investment in the supercharger network as a major driver of the mitigation of range anxiety. And they said research after research after research, people were just like, hey, does it work? Does it work? Does it work? Like they ask funny questions. Does it work? It's like, it's a funny thing. Of course it works. I drove 11,000 miles on the thing. What do you mean? But it's still, I get funny little questions. So I get it. And their research talks about the supercharger network. So I gotta, I gotta lean toward one. The network was awesome and amazing when I drove from New York to North Carolina to grab my mom and then back to the Southeast to hit the oceans for Christmas vacation and camping. And
Yeah.
and it was all about the supercharger network, man. And it really was. So and I know those other networks are out there. I know they're not as good, but maybe they could just buy some adapters and let Tesla make a little money off of them. I don't know. I think they're going to do cool. The fact that they got that contract with Amazon, that's going to help them. That's going to get them far because they got some cash. They got some money coming in. They're not going to be Tesla. I mean, you pointed it out, 10K versus 650K in reservations. That's a big difference, dude.
That is the interesting thing, John. When the Cybertruck was first announced, I was looking at it going, wow, that is a shocker.
Yeah.
that is intense. The look of the Cybertruck is really intense. And I held back for a few days going, yeah, I think I'm going to wait for the Rivian. But then I learned more about it and I put a deposit on a Cybertruck and
Me
I
too.
about put a deposit on a Rivian. I
Nope.
could really use a pickup truck because I would like to get a camper trailer to go RVing with a trailer. I have I have a Class C RV today, so it's an all-in-one truck and camper, and it's great, and it fell in my lap for a song, so I'm really happy with that, and I've been upgrading that. It has solar and storage now. It's a microgrid on wheels, but I lust for a truck and trailer combo so that I can then unhitch the camper and go cruise around in the truck and do some more exploring more easily than I can with the all-in-one Class C. But 650,000 people have put a deposit on a Cybertruck. And I have a friend who's a hunter and he owns a very nice big property down here in central Illinois. And he thinks Rivian is trying to appeal to hunters, and I don't doubt it. A large percentage of truck owners are hunters. It's something like 60%. Um, and he thinks he's all excited about Rivian now. It's the first
Good.
EV that he's gotten really pumped about, and I'm like, that's great, man. I want them both to succeed. I think Rivian will be okay because they do have that credible investment from companies like Amazon and Ford. But they only have 10,000 reservations for that truck, and I just don't understand that. Like, why are there so many people interested in the Cybertruck versus the Rivian?
Well, first, Elon Musk is cool and people believe him. He's not a suit. He's not an MBA. He's a weirdo who lands rockets, uh, invests in Dogecoin, and now takes Bitcoin. And people want that. We're
Oh,
bored. We're bored of people following quarterly advice. Hello, put on your suit, wear your tie. Go, no, no, dude. This is the future, man. It's time to get off this damn planet and it's time to do some weird shit. And that's what he's doing. And that's what's happening here. And people, and you know what? He threw a giant piece of metal at his window saying, hey, it's bulletproof. Oh man, we messed up. But a giant piece of metal bounced off. It did break the window, but it bounced off. Like with a normal car, that's hitting you in the body, and you got a chunk of metal in your car. And he built a really sweet vehicle. And my company, Commercial Solar Guy, we put a deposit down because our general contractor, he drives around a lot in a SUV, so he has his ladder, so he's got equipment on him, and I don't want him driving an SUV. That's specifically why I got the Model Y. It's one to camp in, and two, I got a big long bed. And now we can put our double and triple folding ladders in there if we need and squeeze in there and get on anywhere from a 12-foot to a 20-foot roof without bringing out a bigger piece of equipment. When we have the truck, we'll just put a couple of bars and, then you can do whatever we want. And so I'm going to love driving around in that truck because it's clean. And I'm going to put a giant sticker saying solar powered electric truck. I don't know, something cool. Just be like, man, this is it. So 650 Gs. I just did the math just for a purpose of doing it. At an average of 50 to 65,000 bucks per unit, that's somewhere in the 35 to 42 billion dollars of revenue. So there's that.
yeah,
It's a little bit of money.
yeah. Yeah, no, the Rivian promotes 300 plus miles of range. Price point is 67,500. It's a little higher price point than the Cybertruck.
Yep.
I think the Cybertruck I put a deposit on, which was the dual motor, was like 59 maybe. Um, but so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Uh, I just keep in mind, folks, that when it says 300 miles, you don't necessarily get 300 miles. So that's the challenge, is how much range will you actually get, and you just don't know until you start driving it around. So, well, let's do another commercial solar guy story, John. You've done a story called Corporate Solar Equals Utility Solar Equals Rooftop Solar, both growing and shrinking. What the heck are you talking about?
So if you go in there and you check out a chart that's near the bottom of this, you're going to see something from SIA. that talks about the rooftop solar volume at corporate locations, at commercial rooftop volume. And you're going to notice it's mostly flat. I know there's a lot of stuff in this article. It's an article that's been, there it is. That's the one. It's that, like that turquoise stuff. And you notice since like 2015, 16, it's flat. Now, in 20, you would have expected it to blow up because everything blew up in 20. And so did in 21. It should be popping in 22. But commercial rooftop solar, the volume is flat. Why? Because many commercial rooftops are owned by large people with many rooftops who are going for virtual PPAs. And if you scroll to the top of the article, you'll notice that virtual PPAs are exploding in volume. And that's the main topic. And so these projects, this volume you see in this increasing chart, this would have been on the rooftop were it not for financial innovation, building large scale ground mount systems anywhere from 6.5 megs up to a gig, and then signing a PPA. And that's what's happening with rooftop solar. The roofs you get, you work them, you close them, you build them. It's awesome. But just recognize that a lot of your biggest people, they're going to sign VPPAs. Like you can't sell Amazon a rooftop solar project anymore, I would guess. I mean, unless they're building new construction and for some reason they wanted to integrate it on site to manage demand.
They are doing that. They are doing that. But they're buying way more of these VPPs.
Yeah.
Not a VPP, a virtual power.
VPPA. Virtual PPA.
Yeah, PPA.
Yes. So that's, you mentioned to me that in the pre-show that somebody you spoke with saw that commercial solar was kind of languishing. And yes, it is. In fact, in Massachusetts, the commercial solar volume has like collapsed. In 2017, 2016, we peaked at like 300, almost 400 megs was deployed. Now we're down to like 100. That's because of the shifting of the programs, more people moving to ground, just dynamics of it. The market's complex. I like the VPPA thing. It's these corporations. Eventually, it's going to cause issues because you can't buy. You can't just say all the electricity way over there is perfectly feeding the power grid, because we're going to need 24/7 VPPAs. You can't just say, hey, I bought a giant solar plant's output of 1 million megawatt hours. Well, 1 billion. And it offsets my company over here, because that doesn't work, because the company's at night, it's companies in the evenings, in the mornings, all that kind of stuff. Google's talking about 24/7 VPPAs, balancing it with hydro, with nuclear, with wind, with solar, with energy storage. And that's the next level. And only the most advanced people with the biggest resources are going to be the swashbuckling few in there at first, but others will follow. And so I like it. I like the evolution. And, I have to compete with it, but that's okay. It keeps me employed that it's a tiny niche that needs smart people. And hopefully I can stick around.
So do we have time for one more thing? Because I saw that chart that you tweeted about, or you found a tweet about the Resi solar stocks.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
We have a lot of stories that we're not able to cover today, just because there's so much good news in the clean energy world. So, yeah, I am a clean energy investor, and I have not invested in any of these companies yet. I'm sitting on the sidelines as far as Resi Solar goes, but as this chart shows, an investment in SunPower for 12 months has a 562% return. That's a Tesla-like return, which is just insane. And then the other companies covered here are Enphase, SolarEdge, Sunrun, and Sonova. Sunrun and Sonova are competitors, right?
Yes. I mean, Sunrun bought Vivint too. So and Sonova just went public. They were the largest private residential company for a while.
Yeah.
and very recently they went public. John Berger, I've met. He's a cool guy, and he also has the most perfect hair of somebody who I've ever met. It's like he looks like one of those dudes on a. He's like, I'm glad he's selling solar. It's like, you know what? We need these perfect looking people selling solar in the world. I was like, nice to meet you. Plus, I love his vision. He's truly like another person you should interview, man, John Berger. And he speaks well to the public, but he's hardcore independence for individuals. He's a solar guy from Texas, which I
Mhm.
think might have something to do with his psyche, how he pitches it. He really I just the language he speaks, I'm like, yes, individualism combined with solar. I like that jive. You know, it's funny that he's a massive lease company pitching individual solar, but there's a balance. You know, not everybody can afford it on their roof. Not every place, not everybody's got the 30 G's, 20 G's to put down. But I just like him. He was a good guy to talk to, and so I guess his press department did a great job. And of course he's got great hair.
He looks like a venture capitalist.
He's a solar guy, so he's definitely got something in it.
He's got that button down look. But yeah, I look forward to meeting John someday. I'm not connected to him yet, but it's only a matter of time with friends like you, John Weaver, the commercial solar guy. How can our listeners find you, John?
Commercialsolarguy.com is the best place. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn, um, Instagram. I think I'm on Facebook, but I don't actually follow the Facebook page, so you can't do much there. But you can do smoke signals if you're in the south coast of Massachusetts. I might be able to see those. But commercialsolarguy.com into your search engine.
Excellent. Well, I referenced rewiring America in the opening of the show, and I'm now going to explain why that was there. We are hosting Sam Calisch, one of the co-authors of Rewiring America's report last year that demonstrates how the United States can clean its grid by 2035 using existing technology, creating millions of jobs and cleaning the air. So check that out at cesnrg.com/events. These are monthly live events that we host, so you can sign up there. It's free. It's limited to 100 people, so don't wait. And that's going to be on February 23rd at 10 o'clock. And then all of this content is that John and I bring you at the Clean Power Hour and all of the other content, the solar podcast interviews. I'm going to scroll down here to the Clean Power Hour is at cesnrg.com/podcast. Please, if you appreciate this content, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You could subscribe right here on the page in the big red subscribe button. Send us your comments. We love to hear your thoughts, your ideas for guests. If you want to be a guest, just reach out to me. I'm TG Montague on Twitter, Timothy Gunn Montague. And I want to thank my co-host, John Weaver, for another great episode of the Clean Power Hour. And let's grow solar and storage. Have a great day, John.